Welcome back to Men and the City. Today is a frigid day outside, but the sun is shining, and so I thought we could do a little bit of a walk and talk. So today's video, gentlemen, is for you. I'm going to go back to basics a little bit and talk about masculinity in its essence. So today's video is going to be called I, Men. One of my favorite artists, and perhaps the most talented and virtuosic artist in the history of certainly Western civilization, is Michelangelo. And Michelangelo famously journaled very early in his life, "Sondreso brutto," which means I know I am ugly. Now, one of the things that all men have to do, as I've said on this channel, is they have to confront the demons and the ugliness and the insecurities that beleaguer all of us, that affect all of us in some way, shape, or form, and to overcome them. And so Michelangelo endeavored, based on his self-perceived ugliness, to create beauty. And the apotheosis of his work is Michelangelo's David, which is perhaps the most famous sculpture in the world, even today, and regarded by many, myself included, as perhaps the most impressive architectural or artistic achievement of mankind. This from a man who thought he was ugly. Masculinity is fundamentally defined by two things. It's defined by the hero's journey. The hero's journey is well known. It's the theme of very famous films like Star Wars or even The Matrix. It is the basic narrative that forms the structure of the male psyche. And we all experience that hero's journey. I have defined it in the very first essay that I ever wrote of Men in the City. I have defined it as a journey. All men must embark on a journey, a difficult journey, that requires hardship, struggle, and courage to achieve a meaningful change. That essentially is what we as men do. But men are also defined by the times within which they live. And certainly Michelangelo was no different. And in fact, Michelangelo's David, and I'll include a video in the description that goes into this in some detail, his David was not just the expression of beauty to compensate for his ugliness, as I said. It also came to reflect the time in which he lived, a time of renaissance, a time of rebirth, a time of humanism, a time of Machiavellian politics and Medici finance and Venetian empire. And so all of those principles and ideas and vicissitudes and so forth also shaped Michelangelo and came to shape his art and the product of his creative energies. Well, we as men today are living, as I've said, in extraordinary times. A time of scarcity, no doubt, but also a time of reformation. And you might say a kind of rebirth in and of itself. A rebirth, I think, not just of the United States, but in all likelihood of Western civilization. And so all of us as individual men are going through this hero's journey in some peculiar way. We are all overcoming insecurities, fallibilities, weaknesses that manifest differently for each of us. At the same time, however, because we're living in such extraordinary times, the ugliness that we must confront today is the decrepit state of our societies, the aggressive imbalance of the genders, the corruption of our institutions, the decline of our civilization. That is the ugliness that we collectively are forced to deal with. And so that becomes the mission for the neo-masculine movement. It is both I and it is men at this particular time. And so in this video, I want to convey to you the importance of your life, the value that you add, because in the months and years ahead, gentlemen, things are going to get very difficult. We are on the cusp of, as I said in the last video, a financial economic crisis, the likes of which I don't think we've seen for 100 years. At the same time, we are marching to war, in my view. I think a major war is about to break out in the Middle East. And that will accelerate many of the problems that we're already confronting economically, politically, and otherwise. Further, many of the underlying problems that so beleaguer our society that all we can do is ignore or placate them, at least that's what the generations that have come before us have done, they are going to be forced upon us. Our immigration mess, our financial mess, the divisiveness that is tearing apart countries from the United States to Germany, the UK, so forth and so on, and the rebalance of power that's occurring around the world. You know, the rise of the East, as I've written about and talked about, and the decline of the West. And so it will fall to us, the young men of our generation, between the ages of 20 and 40, or 25 and 45, it falls to us to clean up this mess. Some of you are thinking that that's not worth it, that it's not our mess, and therefore we don't have to clean it up, and that this society hates us or devalues us, discards us, ignores us, hates us, whatever, and so we should turn our backs. Well, that is not the answer, in my view. Obviously, it's your life. You can do with it what you choose, insofar as events permit you to. But right now, I can tell you that there are very wealthy people, the billionaires and the bankers, that have remote compounds all over the world that they plan to escape to when things get really bad. But I can tell you, based on the historical record and humanity itself, that that is not the answer. It's never been the answer. The answer is community. The answer is to coalesce around other human beings that help us get through the tough times. And of course, the elites have concluded what they have because they've lost touch of their humanity. They don't really understand what society is anymore. And of course, that's a major reason why we are in the state that we're in. But it is incumbent upon us as young men to confront these ugly realities and to coalesce into a neo-masculine movement to solve this problem. And the opportunity for that is coming, and it's coming like a freight train bearing down upon us. And I think we are up to that challenge. I really do. So the message of this video is to say that there is a convergence coming between your hero story and this broader world crisis that we're headed into. And all of us are going to be needed in the times ahead. I want to finish by referencing a word that comes from Latin called testudo. Testudo was a Roman battle tactic. We today refer to it as the turtle. And some of you have seen it portrayed in movies, but basically it was a practice in which Roman legionnaires would come into one formation and shield their enemies all around them and sort of push through enemy lines accordingly. in order for us to survive, in order for us to prevail and reform and make good on the promise of this opportunity that's coming, this opportunity for reformation, we are going to have to practice the same, this testudo. We're going to have to come together in order to make this a reality. And ladies and gentlemen, I think that is what's going to happen. And I do believe that it is well within our capability to do this. So, in the months ahead, as things do ratchet up, don't lose faith. Stay engaged and practice what Clausewitz talked about. When all your preparations have been made, walk boldly into the shadows of uncertainty, because they have arrived. Stay tuned for more, and we'll talk soon.